That appears to be live. Let's just do our little test to make sure. Come on, test, please.
To be live.
All right, there we go. So satisfied my obligations, I believe. All right, so I'll begin this video with just, as I did write a couple of declarative statements to clarify what I'm proposing, and I'll try to increase the list and maybe number it and do something so you can reference it in some way and say this can't possibly be true because of some reason, and then I can point out why that reason has nothing to do with it. But anyway, so I just thought it'd be worth doing. And then the rest of the video, I'll play some of the John Chappell natural philosophy, whatever thingy with the, whatever his name is. They let the creationist guy have the show for 3 weeks. And he's just so full of crap. It's just so it's worth playing some of it just because it's so weird. These guys seem kind of intelligent. They definitely have some knowledge. You know, they have a decent grasp of physics concepts. They certainly get the idea that, you know, they have to make this argument to conventional physics, and somehow they are not being allowed to interact. And it just seems like, well, yeah, you put creationist lunatic on your head. Yeah, I don't think you're going to get much of an interaction. I mean, why should people take your, why should they believe you when you say, I have a good theory? Well, yes, I believe in a nonsense fairy tale, but I have this other theory. You know, that's not somehow a nonsense fairy tale. Oh, no, it's probably also a nonsense fairy tale. I mean, you can't believe in something completely ludicrous and then walk up to somebody and say, take me seriously. It's like the boy crying wolf or something. Creationism, you're already done. Your credibility is gone because there's absolutely no way to defend it. No rational defense for religion. There's just no rationally defending it. It's irrational gibberish. It's baby talk. It's nonsense. It's a silly fable. And no rational defense can be presented. All right, anyway. So these are my axioms. So I will do that for fun. Or whatever it'll turn into. All elemental forces. So this is the fundamental statement. Okay. All elemental forces. So that means the little bits, the stuff that we call a force that isn't like force, like I punch you in the face. The actual punch has a different force that actually causes stuff to happen. It isn't your fist. It's all the magnetism built into your fist. So anyway, the elemental forces. So understand, that's an important word, elemental. Gravity, magnetism, and the nuclear forces. So the stuff binding the atomic bits together that connects the material bits that makes them move, and that as a result of this charge phenomenon creates what we see as magnetism. Now, I could say electromagnetism, but I just don't think there's any need to. Electro really isn't anything. Electro is just a manifestation of magno. So anyway, gravity, magnetism, and nuclear forces are manifestations of the same universal material. That means it has a substance to it. It isn't a force that just happens invisibly over space. It actually has to travel across space. It's a something that has to move. And it's whether it's a perturbation in an ether or not. The point is the force itself is active. It's not inactive. So the parts of the ether that aren't moving would be irrelevant. The only parts that matter are the parts that are moving, so to speak. So even if you thought of it as an ether, the only parts that matter are the parts that move. There's no other ether but the moving bits. Anyways, the same universal material, active, okay, keyword, force is active. And it's not, there is no relevance to anything inactive. Only active things can do something. Particle in the sense that, like I said, we don't have to know what the particle's made out of. If you want to think the particle is just a vibration in something, it's okay. Just understand that the particles are always there. They're dense. There are tons of them. Gravity. It's happening all the time. It's not an array of them. Anyway, particle force and move at the same constant speed. All right. So again, the words that are tricky is the word particle. It's always going to be a tricky word because there's no way to prove the difference between, me saying something solid and me saying, no, there's a bunch of stuff and there's a little hole in it and the hole moves the speed of light. Those two worlds could be the same. Whether the hole is the substance or the substance, it doesn't matter which way you reverse it. You can make the paper black and have the text white, or you can have the text white and the paper black. I said that. Anyway, it doesn't matter which way you reverse them. Only the parts that are really important are it's material in the sense that it's a real thing, not just a vaporous ESP thing. It's a real thing. That's why it has a speed limit, and it's active. It has the speed and it moves the speed. So anyway, all right. Next axiom. So I would argue that there's nothing in established relativity or quantum mechanics that disproves the possibility of that being a correct statement. There's nothing incompatible with any mathematical formula or anything else that says that can't be the truth. That doesn't exist. It's not in conflict with any well-established fact. All right, elements of the universal active particle force move at the speed of light. So that's saying the bits. It has elements. This force is elements. It's little bits, little particles. The little particles move the speed of light, which is the same as the speed of force. And light is just one of the forces. So light, I guess I could say gravity, magnetism, light, and the nuclear forces. Yeah, that would probably be the more appropriate thing to do. So yes, I'll copy that and paste it in here because, yeah, I'll have to change the sentence structure, I suppose. Capitalize the other crap. That's a comma or is that a period? Anyway, I can see. Anyway, all right, gravity, magnetism, light, and the nuclear forces. Okay, all right, more complete. Save that. All right. Move at the speed of force. Carry the same momentum. So that is whether it's a little piece of gravity or whether it's a piece of light or whether it's a piece of magnetism or whatever it is, it's always the same little bit. It moves the speed of light and it has the same momentum. That is, it has the same capacity to interact, except for the fact that charge, it can be plus or minus. So it's the same. I could cut the battery in half and say this is the plus half and this is the minus half. They are equal in every respect, except one is plus and one is minus. They just have a different charge. Okay, and have a quality of charge as their only other elemental property. So their only fundamental properties are they move the speed of light, they have a quantized momentum, that is, it's a momentum of 1, and they all carry the same amount of weight, so to speak. Power to effect is the same. Same weight, same bullet. It's just that there are silver bullets and gold bullets, and silver and gold will make a difference whether they're hitting gold or hitting silver, that kind of thing. Okay. Gravity causes uneven absorption of momentum. So that's just a qualification of the word pushes. So you read without the qualification. Gravity pushes from the outside in. So the force comes from the external universe and everything gets pushed in. And that's why the whole universe has that appearance. The atoms are very small and little bits pushed together. The group of atoms are pushed together. We're pushed together by the atmosphere and all the other crap are pushed together. The solar system is pushed together. The galaxy is pushed together. Everything is pushed together from the external force. That's the tendency. The strong thermodynamic effect is from the outside in, not from the inside out. Okay. Increasing interactions increase pressure. So the idea of pressure in these different forms is a consequence of more stuff moving in less time. So more movement in less time, or more movement. It's always a time equation is the point. But yes, more interactions in a specific amount of time will cause more pressure. Light is negatively charged universal active particle force at a specific frequency. So a photon of light is just this manifestation of charge, the negatively charged force bits at specific distance from each other in a ray. That's what we call a photon, a element of electromagnetic radiation, from radio waves to cosmic rays, all the same stuff, doing this specific. I don't think cosmic rays are photons. Oh, it doesn't matter. Whatever the other word is for the high, high frequency electromagnetic radiation. Anyway, so light is the force at a frequency, and magnetism is the universal active particle force filtered for charge. So gravity is the force mixed, plus and minuses, all mixed up, no filter. Magnetism is the force being filtered, goes in as gravity, comes out magnetized, segregated, and therefore creates magnetic effects. So it goes into the thing as gravity, affects it as gravity. It expels the force in the form of magnetism, in the sense that a magnet segregates the force, separates the gold bullets from the silver bullets, and that affects atomic structure based on affecting electrons and protons differently based on their charge, common charge. And so when the force is mixed, it's gravity. When it's segregated, it's magnetism. And when it's at a frequency, it's electromagnetic radiation. Now, I would contend there's no facts proven by physics anywhere, no formula, no anything that can demonstrate how any one of those axioms cannot be correct. None. Okay, so just making the point. And so if we're not going to disagree with these axioms, then I can build out of this structure, this very simple structure, a working model of the universe. I can point out how atoms can be formed, and how compounds can be formed, and how humans can be formed, how planets can be formed, and why they're shaped the way they are, and why they move the way they are. I can explain all of that. Axion. Okay, wrong word. Axiom. That's what I'm looking for. Yes, I typed the wrong word on the title. Oh, just so people are just so so right on the edge. I'll just put the word facts. How about that? yeah, facts. But it's true. Mistakes are mistakes. They should be pointed out. So fair cop, I'd say. So fix it. Edit. BASIC. Facts. Yeah, go with that. Oh, how come it didn't go where? How come it didn't type what it was supposed to? Where the hell did it type it? Some kind of magic place? I don't get to see where it typed it. I hate Google. I mean, just the truth. P-A-S-I-T-F-A-T-T-S. There shouldn't be anything wrong with that. Okay, so we'll go with that instead. And yeah, I have to scroll. I mean, this is such little things, but I mean, why put the Save Changes button where I have to scroll to get to it? I mean, they know people have different resolution browsers and different things fit. They know that's inconvenient as fuck. I mean, it could be right here, Save Changes. It doesn't have to be way over there. No reason. No good reason. All right. So continuing. I just wonder why, Gary. Why do you continue? Because I have no choice. I must endeavor to persevere, so that's what I'll do. All right. So this was an interesting conversation. So I've watched like 2 of these things, and they're 2 hours long, which is a lot. And it's quite tedious. So I did it with the speed way up and all that kind of crap. Don't need this on here. That's for sure. Don't need that. All right. So yeah, so it just has this image isn't very helpful. So it's just for the audio. We'll be doing this. Increase the volume. So they were having a little bit of conversation. I don't remember these people's names, which is really bad on me. Bob or something, and the other guy is. They when they talk to him, they sound like they're saying Gary, but I don't know if his name's Gary or Jerry or Larry. Maybe it's Larry. But anyway, obnoxious guy. So and then there's these other people, but they all seem like they're all very comfortable with creationism. Like somehow this all goes back to God, and like that's the big mistake is we've taken God out of physics, some kind of crap like that. So they seem to be having like a rational conversation in the beginning about what we got to do, and they were talking about the origins of the Chappelle natural philosophy thing and the split up and the breakup, and they broke up because people realized they had no credibility. They were letting any lunatic in and talking shit. And that's not going to work because you have no credibility. And so they were getting, apparently a couple of people wrote a couple articles about how their membership was a bunch of loop-de-doo nuts and makes them look stupid. But apparently this wing decided to do, no, we like crazy people. And we like people making false claims over and over and over again that people have to redundantly and over again challenge and ask you to prove what you're saying. Like this guy hasn't proven anything he says, and he's been asked to prove some of the things he says, and now he's still asserting them as if he has some evidence to back it up, and he has no evidence. So again, in this thing, he even brings up the stupid Poincare book that he claims has been squirreled away by librarians. So there's these librarians that have this Poincare book that they've put away in a secret safe, and they won't let anybody see it. I mean, once you're challenged on that, you're done. I mean, if you don't have the goods, you can't keep bringing it up as a story. It's not a decent story. It's not an acceptable story. You can't tell your little Superman stories when somebody's asked you to put up the proof and you have, you don't have your suit or anything. Can't show me your suit with a bullet in it or something. Nothing. Anyway, so now he brings up some stupid crystal. In this part, well, there's so many parts that are worth going over. I mean, I don't have my right time codes, so I don't know what I did wrong, but somewhere I screwed up in how I marked the time codes. So I'm missing some of the funnier bits. But let's just go to a random place here, 27.
I think it's a pretty spectacularly embarrassing episode where all these experts, essentially, if you read his book, the implication is they thought he was an idiot for doing this. All these college-educated test pilots.
Okay, so this guy's claim, so this is whatever the other guy is. So his claim is that everybody before Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier, their accusation is that the entire physics community thought you couldn't go faster than the speed of sound. I don't think that's anywhere a documented fact anywhere. I think they all kind of knew that. That's almost like saying that most physicists thought the Large Hadron Collider was going to cause a black hole that would blow up the universe. I don't think anywhere close to most of them thought that. Not even close. So this is, again, just more storytelling. You know, it's just such horseshit. I don't think anybody working on the, whatever it was called, the M1 or whatever, had any worries that Chuck Yeager was going to get blown up.
They didn't really want to have anything to do with this because they thought anybody who tried it was going to die. Okay. So, but you don't, here's a, but the,
I mean, we had already shot missiles and other objects faster than the speed of sound. So breaking the sound barrier, it's just doing it with a man in the suit. I mean, it's not like we haven't already broken the sound barrier.
bottom line here is this was something that was fairly easy to disprove experimentally just by doing it.
Right. And it was fundamentally already proven that you could shoot bullets of various sizes, cannonball size, all kinds of sizes, and shoot them faster than the speed of sound. So not an unknown phenomenon.
The difficulty is that modern science is in the situation where it's not really that easy to do simple demonstrations that disprove the theory. So
right. The physics has gotten really complicated and based on a lot of discussions about parts that we can't see. So this other idiot keeps, no, jerk. All right, I got to fix my language. The other guy, the religious creationist person, all right, the creationist person keeps referencing Newton's logic and the fact that physics stopped recognizing cause and effect. And none of that ever happened either. Physics doesn't deny cause and effect. And there was no point where they denied cause and effect. There's just some elements of physics where they concede that they, it appears to be that the universe has a non-deterministic element. But most physicists will disagree. But anyway, that has really nothing to do with the point. The point is, you kept bringing up Newton, and Newton believed in cause and effect, but Newton had no explanation of causes. Newton had no description of these tiny little bits and what they were doing. So he made no claims. So it's really stupid to say, oh, okay, as long as you don't make any claims, you don't say anything, you don't describe anything, how it works, you're adhering to cause and effect. No. The reason why Newton appeared to be adhering to cause and effect is because he wasn't explaining anything, why it was happening. He was just explaining what was happening. He eliminated cause. He was just doing effect. And yeah, that's really easy. Doing effect is a lot easier than doing cause. All right, so it's just sort of bogus to make this comparison when, yes, cause is a lot harder than effect. Come on. All right, we have a comment. How would someone following your system, you have to put that in capitals for some reason, know whether the LHC would or would not be catastrophically dangerous? Well, you could know it because, you know, you're understanding that the universe itself does stuff all the time. Now, yes, there's galaxies that explode, so to speak, like some bit inside of it explodes. It makes a huge explosion. So I wasn't one of the ones claiming it's impossible that we could make a device that causes a catastrophic chain reaction. I'm just saying there's no evidence that we were leading up to anything that would be causing such a thing. Like we're anywhere near the pressures inside the sun or something, that we're even capable of getting anywhere close to the volume of energy in a location, a plasma. So yes, if the LHC doubles their thing, well, maybe you got to start worrying. Well, I don't think anything using magnets is ever going to be able to get anything up to enough pressure to be dangerous, because it's just not enough energy. You got to move a lot of mass, or yes, you have to take mass to, like I said, taking small masses to the speed of light will not gain you anything in terms of energy because it's not enough mass. You know, little bits. The little bits can explode and it won't add up to much. One tiny electron blowing up. You need the chain reaction thing. And there's no reason to believe there would be a chain reaction. Something like that.
The ability to disprove the theory is extremely difficult. And on the other side of the coin is there's really not a whole lot of people that want to fund efforts to disprove the theory because you have to have some kind of a motivation to disprove. In the case of the sound barrier, there was a lot of motivation in terms of military advantage could disprove this thesis. Or
well, look, it was a barrier that hadn't been broken, so there's a lot of notoriety to be gained just by doing something nobody's done before. So that's quite obvious. So I think there would be plenty of people that would be interested if they thought fringe science had something to offer. If there was some evidence that fringe science was actually capable of producing something accurate, truthful, real, then there'd probably be people quite willing to invest in it because they will be willing to have their name on a new truth discovered. So I think there would be plenty of interest in fringe science if fringe science didn't appear to be, mud turtles. Why would you pay a bunch of mud turtles to do physics? I mean, fringe science is really bad at doing anything but talking a lot of shit. They don't make anything. They don't do anything ever. They never prove one of their claims. They never, the automatic dishwashing machine never shows up, whatever. Just never happens.
Theory. And so there was money, and the military was interested in disproving it very quickly because they saw a military advantage to be gained. But in disproving other scientific theories, what is the advantage to be gained?
Well, again, so this is a bizarre story, in my opinion. Like somehow the military didn't know how to shoot kids, bombs at the speed of sound. I'm sure they did.
One of my sons did a science fair project on the using the toroidal ring model for the electron.
Okay, so this is another story by the creationist guy. So he keeps telling these stories. All right, so now we have his son did a science project. Now we all can figure out that his son didn't do shit. He did it. Okay, but anyway, for his son, yeah. And so he's using the word toroidal, and they used hyperboloid before, so it's all kind of Ken Wheeler kind of jargon. And, just amazing. Like, again, where does all this come from? This stuff that moves around stuff. Where's the energy for this shit come from? What force is holding it in? I mean, how do you make a system like this? There's just no evidence of all this, where the energy comes from for these flows that all these people think are happening.
Yeah, and he was able to predict twice as many spectral lines as the current theories we have.
So like this again, so he thinks that he's proven somehow that the scientists don't know what spectral lines are, that somehow there's twice as many for all the elements or something, when what we know is redshift causes spectral lines to move to different locations. So lines that should be here are over here. So if I take two of the same elements, and you view one from here, and you view one from far away where it's redshifted, presumably moving away from us, but the redshift could be caused by something else. But let's just say two distant objects at very different distances. The spectral lines from this object and this object, even though they should be in the same place, they won't be. Okay, so they'll look like new lines, but they're really the same lines, just in the wrong location. And he's claiming that NASA doesn't understand any of that, doesn't understand what, that they don't understand how many spectral lines are related with certain atoms. And it's just a preposterous accusation backed up with not a single shred of evidence. So anyway, so the science project that his son did, apparently all of the physics, he says Nobel Prize winners who were judging said it's garbage. But somehow there was a NASA person who said it's okay. So somehow, even though the judges said it's disqualified because it was probably creation science, he says NASA thought it was brilliant. And so he says all this stuff, but I don't see any newspaper clippings. I don't see any evidence that any of this ever took place at all. Just talk.
Like the Bohr model, the Schrodinger model, and Dirac model, yeah. And then in the science fair project, we discovered that NASA had done an experiment where they put a rocket out on the dark side of the Earth, and they opened it up, and they looked toward the darkest part of the universe.
So, just the dark side of the planet. Like somehow you have to be on the dark side of the planet to be not pointed at the sun. that somehow the planet's going to help you somehow when you're looking the opposite way. No, it really doesn't make any difference. But anyway, and that, so NASA, so he's making claims that NASA did some experiment where they found out something and somehow NASA covered it up because that defeats the Bohr model and all of the rest of the quantum mechanics. And so it's just another bizarre truther accusation, a conspiracy accusation with no evidence.
And they had a rating there.
And this has CNPS, Saturday Science Video Conference. So again, this is what they put their name on. This is what their organization says is good dissident science. Good dissident science should just make a ton of claims for which they have no supporting evidence. Just tell a bunch of fucking stories.
That came in through from space with no fast window or anything. Came in, went across their grating, and then divided up into many spectral lines, hundreds of spectral lines.
Hundreds of spectral lines. Again, that doesn't mean anything. Some atoms create hundreds of spectral lines. Well, hundreds is getting a little tricky. Some atoms do. I mean, really big atoms have lots of spectral lines. But, you know, the lines are usually related to energy levels of electrons, so they have to have an origin.
And so NASA looked at that and said, this should be spectral lines from hydrogen and helium atoms.
Right. So NASA, again, we all know that, yes, there's spectral lines. Like when you look into space, the stuff that is on fire are these suns and such. And there you're collecting that energy. But you're also collecting the background energy, you know, the cosmic background radiation, random photons. And you're also collecting also the stuff that burns, gets heated in the sun. So, you know, there are heavy elements inside of the sun. So you would expect to get some spectral lines from these other locations. Yes, the strongest lines will be from hydrogen and helium, but there'll be lots of lines from other elements. So he's implying that somehow they were expecting only to see hydrogen and helium when no NASA scientist would have that expectation. That's just nonsense. And again, see, claiming it as a truth. That's what they expected. No, it's not.
But no theory is in the extreme ultraviolet. No.
So the extreme ultraviolet. So he says there's this place, this extreme ultraviolet, that somehow there's all this energy in it. Now he's going to claim later that there's some special chip that they've come up with, when some crystal, the magic crystal again, that absorbs somehow this special radiation that no one's detected, and that somehow it could power everything. Like you could put a solar panel inside of your house and it would still collect the special infrared, ultraviolet. I don't think so.
No model of the atom predicted even one line in the extreme ultraviolet, much less.
Okay, one line in the extreme ultraviolet. So again, this argument that the spectral lines line up in something called the extreme ultraviolet, when that's not what they do. The spectral lines aren't, they're not, let's see, they're, obviously they're spectral lines, so they're on the spectrum, you know, red, green, blue, blah, blah, blah. But let's see how to even say this. I'm just trying to think of what redshift does, which way they move on the spectrum. I won't say any more than that. I don't know, so I can't say. But I'm just saying, clearly he's saying NASA scientists don't know what spectral lines are. They don't know how to analyze them properly. He's making a rather bold claim.
Then my son looked to see what the ring model would produce.
The ring model. So there's some kind of thing called a ring model. So instead of orbitals or something, they're in hyperboloids or toroids. So the atom's made out of a toroid or some kind of other crap.
And it predicted every single line.
Every single line that we don't get to see, predicted lines seen by one satellite that we don't get to see the data from, but somehow he has the data. I mean, it's just claims with no evidence. Ugh, it's disgusting. And he says, why not? How would someone follow your system know how to build an atom bomb? an atom bomb, you don't need any system, okay, to know how to make an atom bomb, in the sense that once you understand that neutrons have this ability to break atoms. So once you know that one neutron can go in and 3 neutrons are going to come out, and you can cause a chain reaction, what does that have to do with quantum mechanics or relativity? So what's your argument? How is my system incompatible with the fact that atoms can be broken? Where did I say atoms can't be broken? Jesus. A bit of the old ultraviolet. What does that even mean as a comment? I don't think it could possibly mean anything. Sounds like how you say no physicist knows how to interpret an interferometer. So again, a lie. What I've said is why don't they explain where the interference is? Where does the interference happen? Does the photon break into 2 wave nonsenses and travel both paths as a wave, or do individually different photons take the 2 paths and somehow the individually different photons interfere with each other? I'm saying, which is the consistent theory here? Quantum mechanics says an individual photon has to interfere with itself. Quantum mechanics doesn't say I can shoot 2 laser beams at each other and cause the photons to interfere with each other. So I'm just saying, where's your consistency here? I'm saying, show me the explanation of the interferometer. Show me the correct explanation of its function. Show me one website that explains how it functions. Now you're maligning my point by straw manning. How did I straw man you, you fucking idiot? Since you're not remembering the context. What context? You say to me, why not? Question mark. Now I assume the why not is what? You know, how would someone following your system know whether the LHC would or would not be catastrophically dangerous? I'm pointing out how my system, number one, has nothing to do with it. It doesn't change anything. Particle physicists don't have a substantially different view of how atoms are held together. They understand it's magnetic, essentially, that's the major force they're breaking. So there's not anything especially different caused by those 2 different perceptions. I would argue that, you know, obviously, again, we're just talking about it causing some sort of galactic, I mean, it has to be an event. A chain reaction is what I said. And there's no material for the chain reaction to take place in. So that would be my argument for why it's an unsustainable chain reaction. So there's not a huge threat of a giant black hole, because all you could have is something the size of 1 atom. And 1 atom isn't enough. Why not? How would someone following your system know how to build an atom bomb? So now he says, I'm supposed to, how would following my system change? An atom bomb is just recognizing that you can shoot little bits inside of atoms, cause them to break in 2 and create 4 more broken atoms, and 4 more broken atoms, and 4 more broken atoms. So as long as you have the right material, you can cause and sustain a chain reaction, which means all of the atoms, most of them, will disintegrate, and you'll create a ton of residue particles, photons. Boom. Oh, you're such a cunt. Anyway, now you're maligning my point by straw manning. So there's no straw man in there, since you're not remembering the context. No, apparently you're not. No, you're the liar. So what's the use of this? What did I lie about, asshole? You know it's called wave interference. Google it yourself. Again, yeah, where's the wave? How are the waves created? It's called wave interference, and it's known to be caused by 1 photon. 1 photon goes into the single slit, splits into 2 wave functions. The wave functions do some math, and the photon ends up in 1 location by probability statistics of the function of the wave function. So where have I said anything wrong so far? That's what you say happens. Well, I'm saying in the interferometer example, what travels the 2 paths? Do you say that a single photon goes in, turns into a wave function, the wave function reflects off the mirror and the wave function goes through the slits? How do you explain it? How do you explain how a half-silvered mirror permits the perturbation of a single wave function through the experiment? All right, so you're preposterously inaccurate. And yet you say they're lying about what they see. So again, where did I say any such thing? So you're just lying about what I've said. I've never said they're lying about what they see. Where did I ever say that? I said the pattern can be created by a lot of ways to create the exact pattern created by an interferometer without any wave interference, without any opportunity for photons to interfere with each other. You can create the pattern merely by exploiting internal reflections on surfaces. That's a fact. It's a fucking fact. I played the video. The professor, the high school professor, I think, oh, maybe no, college physics professor, I played him explaining internal reflections, showing that you can put two pieces of flat glass and just the dust layer between them will create internal reflections that will create the pattern. I've shown it, shithead. So in other words, you have no answer. So obviously I do have an answer. I've shown it in the videos. In other words, you're just an insane liar. Okay, fine. And I wonder why more people aren't into fringe science. So he's making an argument. So if you people have any integrity, any honesty at all, you think he's demonstrated how people who ask for evidence ask you to merely do a simple thing, explain how your interferometer works. Where does the interference happen? Where does the photon split into a wave function? Where does the wave function interfere and therefore create a pattern? Why don't you just draw the fucking picture, you fucking liars? Okay, you're lying about what scientists say causes the single slit and double slit interference pattern. So again, where did I lie? What was the incorrect? So anybody watching this, did you see me make a misstatement, in some way be unfair to the process? A single photon goes into the single slit. The argument is that Huygens means a million little waves are created, and of those millions of an infinite number of waves are created, round waves, and that they lead to two major waves. And these are wave functions. Now, these are no longer photons. The wave functions interfere with each other, and by a probabilistic mathematics over permutations. So each permutation, you get a different result. So each time the wave goes in, you get a different this position, this position, this position, this position. It'll be decided by probability. The waves will be exactly the same. The interference will be exactly the same. And the only thing that changes is the probabilistic outcome. Now, where was I dishonest? Where did I cheat? Okay, so you're such a liar. And also about what the interferometer does, perturbation. Why is perturbation important? What does it have to do with the interferometer? So you're saying the people who are arguing for the interferometer are saying it's the wave function is a perturbation function? Oh, I haven't heard a single one say that ever. Not once. No physicist have I heard say that. No, that's not true. They use interferometers to measure distances. We know this. So how would dust make the pattern that shifts as a function of change in travel time? Well, I've already explained that. Slits cause divergence. So the light widens. So the light that goes through a half silver mirror, for example, the light that goes between the pieces of half silver starts diverging, spreading. The light that reflects does not spread. So you have one beam that's not spreading and one beam that is spreading. Now, the longer the distance you spread that beam, the more it spreads. And the spread is exactly proportional, how much it spreads to how much distance it travels. So clearly it can be used as a measuring device, you fucking cunt. Sorry, I didn't want to say it, but just this constant lying. Constant. Yes, I've watched all of my videos. The really great videos, and you haven't been able to point to a single link, a single quote where you've caught me on anything at all. Nothing where I've said anything that's a lie or untrue or unfactual. Not one, you liar. Okay. So I've already done the dust argument. Dust is because of the internal reflection. So you can understand that if light is reflecting between two surfaces because of the higher angle, that is, you diverge it, create a higher angle, more likely that the light reflects. Now, the probability is another permutation question. When will the light go through? Well, there's a 12% chance, 12% chance, 12% chance, 12% chance for each reflection. So you can figure out over time, some of the lights go through here, some of the light goes through here, some of the light goes through here. So you can figure that out, asshole. All right. When you say they don't explain how the wave equation, now again, I never said anything about a wave equation. I said they don't explain where the interference happens. It mechanically has to happen somewhere, right? The photon goes from being a photon to being a wave function. Somewhere in the experiment that has to be accounted for. You have to say, yes, it's a photon here, it's a wave function here. I'm just asking you to do that with the interferometer. Just point out where's the wave function happening and where's the photon happening. Where does the photon stop being a photon and where does it become a wave function? That's not a difficult fucking question. All right. When you say they don't explain how the wave equation, again, so again, never said these words. Never said anything like this. The wave equation. There's no such thing in the first place as a wave equation. There's an angle equation. There's no wave equation, asshole. Predicts the single and double slit. Well, again, it doesn't predict it in waves. That is real physical water waves. There is no prediction of wave interference in the single slit. So the wave equation doesn't work on the single slit in water, asshole. And double slit patterns. And obviously it doesn't describe the double slit pattern. That is the fact that two patterns are superimposed on each other. Why don't you show me the picture? Draw me the picture of the wave interferencing and the how the pattern does the two patterns at once. Why are there two patterns? Why don't you draw that instead of just claim it? In this very live stream only minutes ago, so I don't even know what that means. And nowhere did I say that. I didn't say it in the stream, so that's just an overt lie. So you're done here. Yeah, okay. You just keep lying. So fuck you. All right.
They measured for hydrogen and helium in the extreme ultraviolet. What do you think about that? He went to the International Science Fair, which happened to be in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada that year.
All right, Ontario, Canada, the International Science Fair.
And the Nobel Prize winners said, we refuse to judge this project because it...
Okay, so he's saying there's Nobel Prize winners who refuse to judge his project. He doesn't show us any reason why, no rationale given, no names of these Nobel Prize winners. We're just told that some Nobel Prize winner says this is rubbish.
Is absolutely wrong. It's not the politically correct theory.
That they said the words, it's not the politically correct theory. They didn't give some other reason why religion isn't physics, like that or something. Because you had God written on the fucking thing. No doubt.
But NASA was judging for the grand prize.
So NASA was judging for the grand prize. Now the grand prize in physics, well, see, that's what we're not told.
International Science Fair. And even though my son received 0 in the physics category.
Right. So it was judged as not acceptable as a physics experiment.
He did receive a grand prize.
He did receive a grand prize for which we have no evidence that he did any such thing, and no evidence for why NASA decides the grand prize and somehow Nobel Prize winning physicists don't. Seems kind of a weird back-ass word. You would think the Nobel Prize winners would be doing the grand prize, wouldn't you?
because NASA said, we took the data, we know it's valid data. And this project has explained every single line we measured with.
So he claims that NASA endorsed the experiment, endorsed its results, and endorsed the fact that, yes, this proves that the Bohr model is wrong and that atoms are hyperboloids. That happened when it didn't happen.
And our experimental resolution. And by the way, the experimental resolution in space is better than the experimental resolution on the Earth.
Well, one would expect, logically. Yes, less noise in space. For some radiation, you can't detect it at all on the Earth because there's no resolution, because the radiation is blocked.
It's the most accurate. The second one that have ever been measured. They measured 7 orders of each line.
7 orders of each line, whatever the fuck that means. I don't think it could possibly mean anything because each line is in an order. So none of that means anything. That's just gibberish.
10 orders. Now, it's like you've probably seen the rainbow in space, and sometimes it's the second and maybe the third order of the rainbow. But you don't get 7 orders, and the same thing is true in the laboratory.
Yeah, it's whatever. There's 7 orders of. So he says he cut lines thinner than NASA can. So NASA's resolution isn't as good as his.
And so, but did the world accept it? No.
And how is the world to? So the Nobel Prize winners are in complete disagreement with NASA. Okay, that didn't make the newspaper anywhere. And NASA basically proved that the Bohr model is rubbish, and that didn't even make the newspaper. Is that your argument? That happened, but it didn't make the news.
What would be the advantage of accepting this theory, Bill?
You would have a more correct theory of the atom.
But is anybody going to make any money? Is anybody?
So this stupid argument that somehow somebody has to make money or nothing ever gets changed or nobody gives a shit about the truth, I think it's just a silly argument. Yes, it's a sad fact that a lot of politicians are liars and a lot of this or that and are corrupt and self-interested. And yes, but there are people who believe in a few principles here and there. They're not all a bunch of, again, this guy believes in God. And, somewhere in this whole, 10 Commandments, there's this vague notion of making false witness, that you shouldn't be a liar. Lying sucks. Somehow he can't figure out that lying sucks.
Going to be able to build a better weapon system? Is anybody going to be able to develop a company to create a lot of jobs?
Well, who would know ahead of time? And I think lots of people would be acutely interested if you have real evidence that the Bohr model is incorrect, that electrons are really moving in some hyperboloid thing, which I don't even know how to describe how electrons would do a hyperboloid exactly. But regardless, I think people would be interested if we found, okay, they do the figure 8 thing with electrons now, that they're basically going, through the nucleus, but not through it because it's moving. So they're going side to side around it, figure 8ing. So they have changed the Bohr model in that sense that they're now saying that the orbit is more complex. It isn't just circular. So there has been some change. And with each change, there would be some recognition that this might be of some value in understanding the mechanics of some phenomenon. So to say that they're supposed to know that ahead of time, though, would be kind of silly, I think. I mean, you can't always know the value of a innovation until you just sit with it for a while and then you figure it out.
What would be what's the economic advantage or whatever, what's to be gained?
Have you ever heard of the nanotech crystal that's going to replace the solar panels?
So they called it a nanotech crystal. Now, I haven't looked it up because it's just horse shit. I know it. So nanotech crystal. So what he gets is he gets reports from stockbrokers. Apparently, he likes to do that. And they'll send you all kinds of crap about, energy and all, because they're trying to get you to give them their money. They're trying to sucker you into an investment contract where you're going to lose all your money. That's what they're trying to do. And he thinks that's real science. So he thinks like there really are rich people in Nairobi who can't get their millions of dollars out of the bank and they need you to help get their money out of the bank, and you'll get paid for helping them, you think those are real people. Yeah.
Well, but you're arguing, what I'm saying is that only when there's some kind of advantage to be gained that can be shown to people that, hey, this is going to give you some kind of a military or political. Or
Again, that's just horseshit. So I'm a cynic, but I'll say that that's true for a percentage of society and a percentage of but I'm saying even if we conceded your point, anything that might, lead to is all that people need sometimes, just something that might. So I think it's just stupid to say, oh, they just discount it automatically without investigating or without paying any attention to see if it might have value. That's just rubbish.
Economic, you're going to get rich or something like that. Is there going to be some kind of action? If there isn't, then I don't think you're going to get some kind of action. Another example in this would be Marconi's invention of radio. I can tell you for a fact that there's probably not any scientists that believe that Marconi could have invented wireless telegraphy. I don't think there were any scientists at the time that said that what he did was possible.
Well, again, he's saying so, where clearly it was a phenomenon everybody was kind of aware of. They found out that engines made noise. There was this vibrational noise that moved through the air. And there was some speculation about how far that noise can travel and whether it's moving through the air or whether it's some other kind of noise. So there was lots of conversation about what this noise thing is, because they were essentially detecting noises that seem to travel a lot further than sound travels. Okay, so clearly they already had the idea that there was some other kind of stuff traveling that wasn't conventional sound.
But eventually, later, the generations accepted it and used it.
No, it was accepted because Marconi made a bundle of money out of it.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of other people made a bundle of money out of it.
Yeah, a lot of people lost a bundle of money investing it. J.P. Morgan, for example, because he chose the wrong loser to actualize the fact. So he chose Tesla, who was trying to send electricity rather than messages.
It was a practical invention that worked, and they made tons of money. Okay, he got investors who invested in it because they wanted to make money. Okay.
Now, this nanotech crystal is the.
Yes, he got a patent, okay, and the patents went back and forth between Tesla and Marconi and all that kind of crap, and there's all this politics. But you read the patents are so inspecific about what they're actually. Well, Marconi's were a lot better. I mean, Tesla's was basically patenting everything that could possibly move through the atmosphere. Essentially, Tesla was saying, "I own that," which is a preposterous patent, in my opinion.
The biggest technological change in 200 years. And let me describe what it's going to do.
So now he's going to talk some more about this fake crystal-y thing. So apparently this crystal was first described in something like 2006 by some inventor who nobody can find. 2006, so nothing, for whatever, 12 years. Nothing. No evidence that any of this is real.
This crystal is able to receive the extreme ultraviolet.
So whatever the extreme ultraviolet is. So the sun produces mostly not extreme ultraviolet. Only a tiny bit of energy coming out of the sun is in the ultraviolet spectrum compared to the amount in the visible light and infrared spectrum. So the spectrum is huge, and then the ultraviolet drops off. And everybody knows the ultraviolet drops off because it's called the ultraviolet catastrophe, because if the ultraviolet didn't drop off, we'd be burned to a cinder all over the fucking place. So there's no great deal of energy hitting the earth in the ultraviolet. There's no such fucking thing. There's no giant source of extra energy.
Radiation coming in from space. Some from the sun, but mostly it's coming from the earth.
Let's understand that what's after ultraviolet is X-rays. Okay? Not healthy. And thankfully we have a magnosphere that's blocking them right now that saves our lives. So how can we see what the atmosphere is already blocking? With the atmosphere and the magnetosphere.
And convert it to electrical energy. Now, if I have a solar panel and I put it on my house, it usually requires 10 solar panels to power a house, and they're big.
No, you need a lot more than that. And even then, you still can't power your house. So that's just kind of bullshit anyway. And you have the whole storage issue and blah, blah, blah. And even at the best, okay, so solar panels are essentially 10% efficient, you could argue. The idea is the maximum amount of radiation you can collect on the surface of the Earth is about 100,000 watts. So per square meter of surface, the maximum amount you can get through the atmosphere, I think it's through this, it might be even less, well, anyway, is 1,000 watts. That's all there is to grab. And you could argue that solar panels can grab 250 of that. So you can get about 1/4 efficient, 25%. So the best you could do was fourfold that. I mean, you can do, 4 times better. You can't do 100 times better. You can't do 10 times better. You can't do any of these other numbers. There's only so many watts of radiation to grab. And even if you did grab every single solitary bit of the energy, it's nothing. Like, it's not going to power anything special. There's not going to be free energy for everyone.
This nanotech crystal produces 100 times as much energy per.
All right, so you just said it. It produces 100 times more energy. It doesn't matter. There's not 100 times energy coming down, so it won't do you any good. It has, making it smaller doesn't make it work. You have to cover the whole square meter to get the 1,000 watts. Making a crystal that's 100 times, there's no number one, it's not even physically possible that it could be happening, because we already know that the current size to coverage is already 1/4 efficient. So you can only make it 4 times better. You can't make it 100 times better, but it's not 100 times more energy. It's just preposterous nonsense.
Square inch as a solar panel, and it works 24 hours a day.
So, which is just on its face an insanely ludicrous statement. So the sun isn't even producing all of this. Somehow you're on the opposite side of the sun, on the Earth from the sun, and somehow the radiation goes right through the sun and gets to your crystal. No, I mean right through the Earth. No, none of that can happen. This is just insanely ludicrous nonsense.
It doesn't have to have the sun up to work. And so that means instead of having 10 solar panels, I can just put a very tiny panel up and get the same amount of energy.
All right, tiny panel, same amount of energy. Now, there's no physics that allows for that. There's no secret known energy that's coming down and hitting the Earth. There's no extra radiation. There's only that 1,000 watts per square meter. There's no other extra energy hitting the surface of the Earth. There's no evidence of any other energy existing but that 1,000 watts. That's all there is. There isn't anything else beyond gravity. So it's a gravity crystal.
And in fact, we have discovered that you don't even have to put it on the roof of the house. You can put it inside your house. You can put it up as your window. You can do a lot of different things. You can power your car.
Yeah, we found. Again, this is just based on nothing, absolute nothing. A piece of junk mail this guy got in the mail, and he's sitting there talking as if this is real science, real physics. I mean, amazing. And they kicked me out of this room.
And in helping to market this nanotech technology, Tesla took a car and made it that ran on this panel. This car.
So Tesla has somehow made a car out of this panel that nobody knows about either. Nobody's heard of that either. Just another bizarre claim that Tesla is somehow using this technology. It's no evidence of this anywhere.
It has no batteries, no transmission. It has a very tiny panel on the roof of the car. And they showed that they could go from 0 to 400 miles per hour faster than any car ever made.
So, bizarre claim. Tesla made a car that goes from 0 to 400 miles an hour on a crystal with no transmission and no motor. You know, it's like I said, this is, and they wonder why. Well, why doesn't conventional physics listen to us? Why aren't they paying any attention to our arguments? Because your arguments suck.
And this company that's making it says, okay, any car manufacturing company that wants to use this in their car can, but you have to put up $1 billion. Well, every major car manufacturer in the world has put up $1 billion. In fact,
So he claims that everybody's put up $1 billion, right? All the car companies have put up $1 billion, and we have no crystal, we have no nothing, and somehow they're all going to share the technology somehow. Do you think that really happened? I think that's just another outlandish claim with no evidence, just silly. It's worse than creationism. I mean, creationism doesn't do something this stupid. This is truther stupid kookery.
Bill, what's the time frame for this technology coming out on the market?
well, in the European Union, they have passed a law that says after the year 2030, no.
So they have, he says there in the European Union, there's a law that says after 2030, they can't make a combustion engine anymore. I don't think there's any such law, but whatever.
more gasoline or fuel oil powered cars will be allowed to be sold in Europe. In European Union. Great Britain.
They're in big trouble. They're in big trouble.
And they also said that after the year 2040, no longer will any type of fuel oil or gasoline be sold in the European Union.
Well, like I said, they're in big trouble.
Well, whatever. Again, this is a claim made. There's no evidence of this claim. And obviously, if the European Union can pass all kinds of dopey laws, we often pass laws and nobody pays attention to them. But, fuel efficiency laws and different things, and the time limit comes up and everybody just says, well, give it another 10 years. Metric system, good example. We're going to do the metric system. Maybe not. Let's not bother.
Well, the panel seems to work. But
so the panel seems to work. There's no evidence of anything, no demos, no nothing, just fucking bullshit.
Okay, let's just
now what produces?
let's talk about something realistic here.
What is it? It's the extreme ultraviolet energy coming in to these panels that
Extreme ultraviolet energy. So again, this undetected special energy that no science knows of, this extreme ultraviolet energy, which again is X-rays.
is all this power. You can't explain it with criteria. Can't explain it at all.
Can't find it at all. Can't find evidence of it at all.
Like I said, Bill, people aren't going to change because the government made a regulation that you can't sell cars after 2030. But there needs to be somebody who is back money or somebody in the government with influence who sees that there's a way for them to get a lot of money, to get rich, get famous, get political power or whatever by introducing some kind of scientific innovation.
Okay, now,
And outside of that,
so I don't even know why this guy, whatever this crank is, why does he even comment on this? Why does he even participate in this room? If he thinks everybody is just saying, where's the money? Every single person on earth, why is he even involving himself in a conversation with anybody else? I mean, it's just a silly premise for an argument that everything that happens only because people are motivated by money. There's clearly lots of, I think, physicists who would just be damn curious if you had some crystal that could absorb energy they haven't heard of before. They'd be very interested in your special source of more energy that's hitting the earth that we don't know about. They'd really be interested. And you wouldn't have to pay them anything. If you could demonstrate to tell a physicist, hey, we have a source of energy and it's hitting the earth right now, a huge source of energy, they'd be interested. If you had any credibility at all. And clearly you have zero credibility. So that's the problem. It's your credibility. How many times are you allowed to lie before somebody's allowed to call you a liar? I mean, crying wolf. Your integrity is on the line every time you make up one of these stories, Bill. And with every story and every cop-out, when somebody asked you for the evidence, you said, well, that book got burned in a fire. And I never, you know, his name was never really published, and so I don't know his name. I mean, it's all excuses for why there's no evidence. It's all the dog ate my homework bullshit. Yeah, this is an embarrassment to dissonant science.
People will adhere to the current way of doing things.
Right.
So there has to be some kind of external entrepreneurial driving force that creates the change.
Okay, now this company has already received, this is a California company, they have already received $1,200 billion.
So $1.2 trillion. So this magical company that he can't name because it doesn't have a name has $1.2 trillion to exploit an energy source that doesn't exist. Cool.
From third parties who want to use their crystal, which they demonstrated for these companies, and that they've given a crystal to the company to investigate and experiment with.
Right. So they gave them a crystal so they could actually see it collect this magical energy. And then you're going to tell me that they paid you to manufacture it, when what they would do is say, oh, we know this exists. I'll just show it to one of my guys and say, make me one. Find this magic energy. Obviously it exists because this crystal is detecting it. So find that magic energy and make me a double crystal. Make me a quad crystal. Okay, I want a quad crystal. So it gets not just 100 times more energy, but 1,000 times or 10,000 times more energy. Yeah. What a pile of shit. Steaming shit.
And all that kind of stuff. So they know. They wouldn't.
What's the name of the company?
If it didn't work.
Bill, what's the name of the company?
You have to pay. I get these stock market newsletters. You have to do a subscription to their journal to get the name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they got $1.2 trillion. Nobody knows their name. I couldn't find it on the internet. You know. All right. Probably enough of this crystal crap. I don't know if there was anything else in this video. He does go into some God stuff later, which is just really shouldn't be allowed. He should just be required to stick to the physics and not mention God. Mention your fake crystals, but don't bring up your stupid God shit. Oh, let's jump ahead a little.
Technology off of individuals that couldn't afford to hang on to it, and with the supposition that or the perception that it was some level of protection, and hence the reason why they only went a few years.
So now these people are bitching about patents, of course, and bitching about intellectual property when it's always been a delicate issue. You can't give people lifetime patents to things; it's just retarded. So it's a real problem. Yes, people who invent something should have a fair opportunity to exploit their invention. And if they can't do that within 10 years, well, then, yeah, it's probably tough shit, fella. Maybe somebody else should have invented it because you obviously couldn't do anything with your invention. But there's reasonable limitations. It's just such people whining about this horse shit. It's just so disgusting in a way. You should have your fair chance to get rewarded for your contributions to civilization. Just your fair chance.
For 7 years, et cetera, and the individuals were concerned about that taking place, and it's still taking place. And they've the ones that originated the technology still have never.
One can point to Marconi as an example of difficulties involving patents. If you want to take a look at that, that's another example of the technology involved lots of patent disputes, and people basically resented his patents.
So another statement. Now, what people resent is when you take a patent and it covers everything and you're not exploiting everything. You didn't invent everything. You're just, it's this generic-y thing. And yeah, it's always difficult. I don't know how somebody even works in a patent office and says approve or disapprove because, yeah, so many of the patents are just this vague idea of, water's wet and should be able to wedicate things with it. So I think I can make a wedicator using water as a wedicator. Yeah, well, that shouldn't get a patent.
Yes. Yeah, one of the proprietors of that technology, crystal technology, is now since passed away at Popper.
Right. So the proprietor of this great technology has passed away now. So, now what's going to happen to the poor magic crystal?
That probably could be a problem.
Yeah, he didn't take any notes like Tesla. Didn't leave behind any rational documentation of anything. There's nothing but silly drawings of pigeons eating, hyperberloids.
Yeah.
But the company owns 250 patents with 200 more pending. So they're trying to.
Yeah, unfortunately, as Marconi found,
So they have 250 patents of crystallizing crystals and magical ultraviolet, double ultraviolet light and shit. What kind of brainwashing going on here? Again, there's no brainwashing. It's just a demonstration that this is what's wrong with discourse between human beings. Is there's no rules of evidence, no logical understanding of the fact that everything should be conducted like a trial. There's got to be rules of evidence. There's got to be a way that you logically progress through a conversation. I think I wrote this down somewhere. Where the hell is my whole spiel on frickin' evidence? I know I wrote it today. I don't know why I didn't get to that. That was going to be part of my axioms. It was a description of logic and how it works. And it doesn't appear to be on my list here, which is strange. Let's see. No, it's not there. It should be on this list right here. It's not on this piece of paper. It should be. So I'll look on this piece of paper, but I don't think it's on here. Let's see. That's just Adam's shit. That's not right. It's not on that one. I know I wrote it down somewhere. Strange. Anyway. So the point is you have evidence, and evidence is what we should be talking about, right? So the only logical principle that matters is the non-contradiction principle. So that is anytime you have a proposed claim for a truth statement, now we're just going to have a trial to judge the truth value of the claim, right? So the truth value of a claim is what we're after. And basically, how one way to judge is compatibility with the other already tried truth claims. So the claims that have already been tried and picked at and been found to be pretty durable, it's important that your truth claim fit with those. And if it doesn't fit with those, then you have to fix that incompatibility. So that's part of this whole process. But yes, you need evidence. You can't just make claims. You have to demonstrate how the claim is plausible, possible, and if you're going to argue probably true, then you have to have even a higher standard. You have to actually provide some kind of demonstrated evidence that it's true. Why should this be difficult? All right, so this is Doctrine Enforcer. I'm sure this will be crap. What kind of brainwashing going on here? Okay, ever heard of Jesus, the pregnant woman killer? What does this have to do with anything? Let me guess. You have evidence for evolution. Facepalm. So he calls Jesus the pregnant woman killer, which I don't really understand. And then he says something against evolution. I don't know. Why do you have 12 thumbs down? Yes, I piss people off. Retards. That's what happens. I call them retards. They get pissed off. And I'm thumbing you down. You call me retard. Even though it's true that I had an inverted penis. Yeah, I did do that. Yeah, that's right. Jesus the Jew. So we don't really need to go any further, do we? No, no, we don't. Oh, God, humans need to be killed. I mean, there should be a trial, and humans should be convicted, and the universe should do the right thing. Execute the sentence.
Controlling the patents doesn't necessarily prevent competition.
Oh, yeah.
For those of you who have patents that have been challenged, you already know this, but for the rest of you, your capacity to defend a patent is exclusively based on and directly coefficient to how many zeros you have between decimal place and some significant figures to the left of the decimal place.
I don't even know what that means. He doesn't even say it depends on how rich you are. Doesn't even say that, but it really doesn't. It really does depend on how well you wrote your patent claim. And if you wrote it badly, then you might be out of luck. Jeez. Assholes. I mean, you know, these people who claim they've patented something, I would like to see these patents. You know. Yeah.
But how many of you are familiar with the tungsten event?
It's not the tungsten event, it's the Tuntuger event or something in Russia. So now he thinks that was created by, well, I'll play it, right? Just more complete made up truth or nonsense, you know, some sort of whatever, Teletubby bubble in space or something.
Paraphrase the Great Siberian Explosion of 1908. You can do a web search on it. But isn't it interesting that Tesla was experimenting with aiming or direction?
Oh, here we go. So now they're yeah, connected to Tesla. So that's what's so funny about it. So I don't know if I should go back and get some more of this Tesla stuff, because the Tesla stuff is hilarious. So they claim that Tesla proved that he could transmit free energy, essentially. That at some point he sent energy 60 miles to a motor and created megawatts of power in the motor, made it run, you know, no wires, by sending energy through the atmosphere 60 miles away. I've seen nothing ever anywhere, not even on the Tesla website do I see evidence of any of this shit, that this ever happened. They just make up these stories and you're just like, how can they make up this crap? I mean, you know, you have zero credibility when you tell these stories and they're not historically accurate, not even close to accurate. How do you think you have any credibility?
In the energy and trying to figure out how to get it to a specific place on the globe, and that at the exact same time that explosion occurred, that he was in the middle of transmitting and hadn't yet perfected that technology. Isn't that interesting? That's just.
So 1906, I don't know if that date even matches when Tesla was actually in Colorado, but whatever.
It's a thought-provoking moment for you.
Yeah. Well, my son was in the Air Force.
I don't think it could be correct. So I think he was working for Edison back then, but whatever.
And in Fairbanks, Alaska, we have what looks like 1,000 radio antennas, and they're putting up energy into the ionosphere. And then when the energy gets up there, they're able to shift the we call it the current of air, the jet stream. We're able to shift the jet stream.
So now he's saying we can change the weather. So they shift the jet stream with radio antennas in Alaska. So again, these are just all truther claims. Truther claim after truther claim after conspiracy claim after conspiracy claim. And, you know, this is what this John Chappelle apparently stood for. I mean, David D. Hilster insulted my integrity and claimed that I did some sort of blight on their organization when this is what he says is okay to do, that members should just talk absolute shit.
The realm of modern science, and to go back to the Marconi example, if you try to read textbooks and books on electromagnetic theory, while we know that radio works and that it exists and it's an obvious everyday phenomenon, they still don't know what a radio wave is. They still don't understand EM radiation. So despite the fact that Marconi and
well, clearly they have a better understanding than they did back then, so that's just nonsense. And that's what's under dispute. Yes, there's a dispute about what the fundamental nature of these tiny bits is. That's on dispute. I mean, obviously the conventional physicists think they have an answer when they say virtual photon and bent space. But I mean, yes, obviously reasonable people could say, that doesn't sound like a great answer. I'd like something a little better, a little richer, a little more info, please.
We use this phenomenon every day. It still is something that's not at all understood scientifically.
Yeah, in the silos we consider electrical engineering a separate silo from physics. And so they can explain how the radio works, but the physics department doesn't do it quite the same way.
I think most people working in electricity or radio think it's physics, so I don't think that's a huge silo difference. Biology, that's pretty separate from physics.
which brings to the surface a plain concept that some things will never be fully understood, and which means that an inventor, scientist, or physicist will never ever be able to satisfy the scientific community or just the shade tree onlooker in any way, shape, or form on understanding the technology. But if they have a practical demonstration that it works, regardless of whether they know how it works or it doesn't work, that sets aside the requirement to fully explain and define it.
There's no requirement to fully explain anything. I don't have to fully explain why round wheels work better than square wheels. In a conversation, generally speaking, with people, they can see this sort of obviousness that gravity and a lot of other things are working against you. The square wheels are fine if you got no gravity and you don't care how much you go up and down. Fuck.
Which is what most scientists and physicists spend their life doing, and those that are short on math skills have clear problems with that. In Einstein's case, he was so short on math skills, he had to have Maleva do all the math work.
So another accusation that's not based on really a ton of evidence. She liked math, no doubt about it, but she didn't do any of the math work actually on the important parts of relativity. She didn't do the Mercury's precession math. Max Planck did that.
If you look at the experiments that Tesla did, he did a public experiment in Colorado Springs where he transmitted power through the atmosphere to Denver.
Okay, so he claims Tesla transmitted power to Denver, from Colorado Springs to Denver. That's his claim.
Was 60 miles away or something like that, and he ran a huge motor in Denver from the power transmitted to an antenna in Colorado Springs. But if you say, oh well, that's
so he's made this claim that Tesla actually transmitted electrical power 60 miles and powered a big heavy motor. We can't do that now, but he says Tesla did it. NASA can't do it. He can't do it. Bob can't do it. Jim, Fred, Booba can't do it.
That's not possible because the energy that he put out through the antenna goes out in all directions, and it goes down as 1 over R squared in terms of the intensity. By the time you get to Denver, you're not going to have much power. So the media was there. They saw it work. But
the media was there. They saw that it worked. So again, more just claims. They didn't take any photographs, of course.
We don't have it as a technology today. And so...
Yeah, we don't have it as a technology because it's impossible. It was impossible then. It's impossible now.
Tesla tried to patent it and everything. And
yes, exactly. He tried to patent every way of sending electricity through space or whatever the fuck he thought it was. And let's just ignore the fact that there's a thing called an atmosphere in the way.
So some things that we do is in terms of demonstrations get ignored. And it was when Tesla tried to build the big tower and to give the world free energy that his supporter, a very wealthy man.
Yes, J.P. Morgan. Yes, and no, J.P. Morgan gave him lots of money, and Tesla was very grateful. So he doesn't even tell this story accurately. Tesla had nothing but nice things to say about J.P. Morgan and was very grateful for the money he got and didn't think he was unfairly treated in any way whatsoever. So that's just all horse shit. But yes, there was a point where J.P. Morgan said, "You're just a fucking garbage can for money. I put the money in and the money turns to garbage."
I think this is an example of conducted electricity is more efficient than radiated electricity.
Well, but see, what Tesla showed is he was able to transmit just enough power out of his transmitter to run this device in Denver.
Right. He was able to send laser beam electricity. So he didn't have to do that whole inverse square law where he electrified all the trees within 60 miles. And somehow he specially pointed his electricity at the special motor. None of that happened.
Required hundreds of amps of power to run this huge motor and in Denver. And we don't know how he did it because even if we put wires up there, we would lose a certain amount of power just going between the 60 miles.
Yes, that's right. We don't know how he did it because he didn't do it. It's a false claim being presented as some sort of physical fact of the historical record, which it is not. It's just another pile of shit. I mean, I don't want to call him a liar, but I mean, these stories are all just fucking stories with no evidence, just like his religion is a story with no fucking evidence.
And that was quite unusual. And of course, in his day, you know, it was mainly DC power that Edison was producing, not AC power that he was doing. And you know, there's
let's understand that Edison's power was AC in the sense that it was on and off.
a lot of things, but there's an example where something was ignored, and we wonder how Tesla did all this, because you know, he seemed to have some innate premonitions on how to design things, and
right, but he had innate premonitions on how to design things, but he couldn't draw a rational picture of what he designed or what he made or how it worked. Sure, that makes sense. And we have no records, and there's no evidence. And that's just the way it turned out. It just turned out that nobody took a picture, nobody wrote down anything, nobody had a conversation where they got any insight out of Tesla. Nobody could duplicate his work because he was especially anointed with the special knowledge. What a pile of shit.
I guess if he would make something 1,000 times before he found a good combination to work.
Yes, and the catch was that Edison's shit worked. Yes, that's the difference. He invented things that actually worked, where Tesla invented things that didn't work. Fuck.
Didn't be able to do it the first time. And we don't know exactly how he was so successful. He seemed to have, as I say, some kind of intuition that most people don't have.
But how many of you are familiar with the tungsten event?
All right, so we already did that part. I don't know if there's anything here. I'll go further down and see if there's any last words here on this one. Do the other one some other time. I'm only broadcasting this for the point that I endured watching it, which was annoying, tedious, difficult. So now I'm imposing it on you, which does seem a little rude. You know, I guess it's just getting to the point of why this conversation that we need to have. We need to be able to put physics on trial. And we're not going to be able to do that if we're all going to look like a bunch of jackasses who are going to show up at the trial and ask stupid questions like, you know, didn't your great-grandfather, molest a cow when he was 15? You know, or do something just completely ludicrous and stupid, just waste everybody's time. So until these critics can sound like rational critics and have something called like some sort of reasonable capacity to interrogate regular physics with more questions than, well, what did you do with all that Tesla data you stole? You know, how many books do you have in your hidden vaults? If that's the best you got, then yeah, you should be ignored.
Well, there's been events, I think myself as a physicist, that are undeniable, that satellite photos and imagery that was in the late 70s, early 80s. There's a huge rock out in the Sinai Peninsula that
So this idiot, another religious kook. So apparently this whole company, this whole group is now just turned into religious kooks. So now he believes that on Mount Sinai, there's some rock that makes water, the flood rock. I guess that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. This is just so crackpot and foolish to sit there and disguise this as natural philosophy, or that this is something to do with being scientists, when this has something to do with being true tinfoil hat wearing crackpots who talk pseudo rubbish, not evidence, not facts, not data, not anything but truther, kooker, loop-de-doo made up shit.
You wash stones with X amounts of water, like in a stream, that how they become very smooth, that for 100 pounds to the next nearest source of water. This rock up halfway up the side of a mountain. Clearly, water flowed from it and washed through a place where it looked like it was inhabited for quite a while. Now,
so there's a special place that was inhabited by special people from the special water rock. And somebody is supposed to take this guy seriously. He says he's a physicist. Somebody's supposed to take that seriously. That this has something to do with a rational conversation about the facts of our existence on this planet.
That indicates that the testimonies given through different historical documents, including, and one of them would also be the Bible.
Right. There's testimony about actual history in the Bible somewhere. Yeah, I don't think so. Not even close.
That would indicate that it affirms some of the historical precepts of that text. Now, has all of it been proven? No.
Has any of it been indicated as being at all probabilistic to have anything to do with reality? Noah lived to be 900 years old and only had 8 kids. One of whom was, I think, sentenced to hell for seeing Noah's naked penis.
At the same time, it indicates a higher intelligence that caused that to take place in some of those other events. And back in the 90s, I used to design DSROVs, deep sea remote observation vehicles, for municipalities and the government. And
yeah, right. Whatever. You design something, I'm sure. For the government, sort of a giveaway. Yeah, they're generally speaking all retarded.
I've seen images on a narrow strait on the sea floor of the Red Sea that where there's horses, hooves, and chariot wheels more than 100 miles.
Okay, so he's seen the bottom of the Red Sea and he saw the chariot wheels. I mean, that's how loopy this is. That's how fucking loopy this. I mean, this fucking idiot's saying he's seen the chariot wheels still in the mud on the bottom of the Red Sea. It's funny how the rest of the religious nutters haven't done anything with that evidence. You would think the Catholic Church would have a big hunk of Red Sea mud with chariot wheels in it right on the wall or something. God, I mean, this is just horrible truth or nutty crap. Okay, so enough of this. Maybe I won't even bother playing the other one. Yeah, just the sound quality is actually, they do improve it because he actually wears a headset and gets rid of all the hiss, which is nice. But, you know, fuck this shit. So bad. All right, so yes, we'll say goodbye to that one. Couldn't watch this cryptocurrency thing because it started off so fucking bullshit. I know. So money's just a silly concept. No, it isn't. It's a real thing. It has a real function. Fucking idiots. So anyway, this is the Bill the Kooker. And he is a kooker. Anyway, yeah, it's probably enough. It's 3:30. Probably should just give up. It's just sad. So anyway, my point is that, yes, we need to, those people who are connected with these organizations that desire to be able to interrogate regular physics on their assumptions and the poor quality of their evidence, we should have that opportunity. And the only way we can earn that opportunity, in my opinion, is to demonstrate that we have some credible arguments to make and that we can make them in a way that doesn't require there to be all this magical, you know, there's hidden books in the hidden library and the hidden vault and the hidden this, the hidden that. Now, all of this conspiracy shit is useless. And what we need to do is provide rational arguments for how their explanation fails. Their explanation is inconsistent with evidence, and it is also logically broken in the sense that it does create structural problems like relativity. You know, creating this mechanism to replace the force Newton talked about. Newton talked about a force of gravity. Einstein turned the force into nothing. And that was a big mistake. And we should be able to make that argument. But the funny part, the ironic part is all these people are ether nuts who also lack energy for their magical hyperberloiding, toroiding nonsense. They have all this stuff happening and no explanation for where the energy comes from for all that stuff to be happening. So it is, this is difficult. But I'm looking for like-minded people who understand that the physics, conventional physics story is weak and, in my opinion, silly. It's there to be defeated and ruined because it is garbage, essentially. And, you know, the only way we're going to get our chance is we're going to have to organize a little bit, and we're going to have to be able to present our arguments concisely and professionally. And if we have to pay a professional physics person, maybe we have to pay them to answer our questions. And through that process, we should be able to demonstrate how their answers are completely insufficient, how they don't have answers, they don't have explanations, they don't have good evidence. They can't defend this crap at trial. They're guilty of jumping the evidence, jumping way beyond the evidence. And that can be demonstrated through a fair process of interrogation. All right, so I think that's enough. Let's see if I wrote my other stuff down here. Gravity, pushing, measuring truth value of a claim. There it is. Okay, evidence, demonstration, logic, compatibility with other facts, tested truth claims. Yes, so I will write something on the subject of what rational people, how rational people evaluate information to glean stuff of high probability of being accurate. Yeah, how they filter the information to find the quality called truth value, and measure it. Measure the strength of the truth value a claim contains. All right. Important. Because that ain't happening anywhere. You know, truth is getting fucked by bad process. And there's got to be somebody capable of demonstrating good process to get to the fucking truth. All right. The stinking truth. Change my language. Really don't want to, but I know I have to. Annoying wimps. Anyway, so till the next time, and such, and so forth and whatnot.